Oh, this one is spicy and also very relevant to previous streams. Do you often struggle to follow instructions? Oh no! Okay, so literally it's like, at this point, you have a table, don't you? No, I don't, IKEA. I don't. But it's okay. We're just gonna have to make it again, aren't we? Oh. It's gonna be a lot of fumbling today. You'll see why. I've taken psychic damage for all of yesterday. Okay. Quick TLDR for anyone who might be completely new. Hello, I am Jen. I'm originally from Sweden. I've lived in the UK since I was 19, so I moved straight from my parents' house in Sweden over to the UK. I am full-time artist. So, and I'm also completely self-published, so I do everything myself. This will become relevant, trust me. I am pushing 40 years old, and I have never been to physically see a psychiatrist until yesterday. I have had over-the-phone diagnoses of anxiety over the pandemic, so I've had treatment for that. So that's like the backstory, yeah? I've never gone in to actually have a full sort of assessment by an actual psychiatrist in person before. This was an experience. I had to do it privately because I'm still on the ADHD waiting list in the UK, and I waited for literal years. It came to the point where I was like, I need to get this sorted because this is I'm trying to like not say too many negative things because I don't want other people who deal with this to feel bad. But yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. I've been feeling like this is ruining my life. So I was just like, I can't function. I feel incompetent and stupid all of the time, and it's just getting worse and worse. So I was like, I need to get help. So I had to get it privately, which was a lot of money. Oh boy. So anyway, I'll just tell you about what it was and how it went. I still haven't quite dealt with it. I'll probably be dealing with it for the next few days. But this is one way to deal with it, to just talk at Twitch. I had an assessment for ADHD. So it was just an assessment for ADHD, but they had me fill in forms, and they also asked questions that were for other things around it. So really the assessment was for like ADHD, autism, the other ones that I can't remember right now, lol, depression, anxiety, panic, you know, all flavors of spice. And also they checked for some other things. So before I went in, all I knew was that I had filled in forms and this thing was going to take possibly 3 hours. I didn't know what they were going to do for 3 hours. Probably just talk to me. I don't know. But that's all I basically knew. So I went to the clinic, and holy shit, I hate that it is like this, but private healthcare, at least in the UK, is like so fucking different. So I walk into this clinic and I have 2 people immediately greet me. They were like, hello, how are you doing? And the place is like spotless. It smells lovely. There's like flowers everywhere. And it like the lighting is beautiful. They got really lovely like sofas, and it's just, they have like tea and coffee, a hot chocolate. Literally, it's like a fucking hotel. And the moment you step in, they're like, hi, and they immediately take care of you. And I was like, hi, I've got an appointment at so and da da da. And they were like, oh, you're seeing so and so. Oh yeah, please do have a seat. And I'm like, no queuing, no nothing, just go and have a seat. They have like lo-fi hip-hop thing, not hip-hop, but you know, the lo-fi beats to study and relax to in the background, but they're Christmas themed, and it's like really cozy and warm and just so nice. There's like almost no people in there. It's really calm. On the one hand, I was like, this is lovely. This is incredible, in fact. And on the other hand, I was like, why can't everyone have this? Why can't we all have this? I'm just like guilty and angry, but also like so relieved to be there and so relieved that it's nice. Do you know what I mean? It's like very conflicting emotions. Amazing having what difference having a budget makes. Yeah. Oh yeah. you can tell that no one's really stressed. And if they are stressed, I didn't fucking notice it. So yeah, I get called up. We go into like a separate room, which is, again, clean, quiet, really nicely laid out. And it has like a sofa, and then it has like a desk and, you know, chairs and stuff. And she was like, "If I know that this probably feels a bit like teacher-like, so if you want to sit on the sofa, you're more than welcome to." And I'm like, no, it's okay. So I just sat like on the chair opposite her, like opposite her desk. Yeah. Even in the very beginning, she was like, "If at any point you need a break, you just let us know. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's totally like normal." She very rarely said the word normal, but it's kind of that vibe. Yeah. She was like, "If you need to get up at any point and move around, just go for it. Don't worry about it." And I'm there going, "Oh, what? This is fine? This is actually fine? What the fuck?" We sit down and then we just start talking. And it's a lot of talking. So the first bit, like all of this, I wish I'd actually taken more notes. I only took notes at the very end because I just sat there and focused on talking for hours. Like the first longest bit was where, I mean, I don't really know what she was doing because she was typing away and talking to me and typing and talking. I don't know how to explain it. It felt really casual, but at the same time, I could tell that she was inflicting psychic damage. So like she was asking really interesting questions. It felt really nice and good. It's so hard to describe how it was. But like once we've done that first bit, I'm going to describe that more, don't worry. But that's when she was like, okay, and now we're going to start going into the actual ADHD symptoms, that this bit is going to be a little bit quicker. Before we get into this bit, do you need a break or anything like that? And yeah, at that point I was like, yes, please. During I think it took about 3 hours in total, the assessment thing. I had to get up and leave the room twice in 3 hours. I just have to. It's like my body is full of bees. We start having a chat. I'm gonna be honest, most of the chat I can't actually remember. I was talking so much. And she was asking about my childhood, so that was very interesting. And she was going through like what my parents had been saying. We sort of went into like how my school time was. So she was going from birth to like, you know, preschool, primary school, high school, whatever thingamabob, and then coming to the UK and further education here, and like everything, like all of like my friends at home in Sweden, my family life. It was so in depth. But yeah, she was like going through absolutely fucking everything, just asking me lots of questions about that. It was interesting how she was asking a lot of the questions that you'd think like hold on, let me just find the form. If anyone's interested in like what questions they do ask, I'm gonna get just the form up very quickly, just read out a couple of them. Funny thing as well, that when I was doing the forms, I had then forgotten that I'd done the forms, and I had to email the clinic and ask them if I had done the forms, and they had to email me back and go, "No, you've done 2 of them." Yeah, I bet they never hear that. Yeah, so one of the forms was also the autism screening one. There we go. Just to give you an idea of roughly what she was asking me. Like, how often do you struggle to give close attention to details, or you're careless in work, completing forms, etc.? You know, you overlook and miss details. How much do you struggle to maintain concentration? And just like that question went on for ages, because then we were talking about different types of concentration, how long it would take me to lose concentration, what would make me lose concentration, what kind of concentration was I good at. It was so much. I remember like the stream here before I went to get assessed, where I was practicing on how I was going to actually describe what it's like having this brain. I remember actually now describing it the same way to the psychiatrist, where it's like my brain has tendrils that come out of it, and it's just grasping at everything and just taking all of the things in. And I feel like normal people have these blinders on, so they can choose to like or just focus on the one thing that they gotta do. So for example, if you're going into the kitchen and you're gonna go and fetch yourself a cup of tea, you can just go and do that, and that's no problem, yeah? That's just a normal task. You don't even have to think about it. But for someone like me, going into the kitchen and getting a cup of tea is like a fucking adventure, okay? Because I'm not going to go and do that. I'm going to go on side quests, motherfucker. We're going into probably the bedroom and fetching some shit. We're probably going to go into the bathroom. We're probably going to go into different sections of the kitchen. I'll forget which tea it was, and then I'll get a coffee, and then like I'll forget to actually go and fetch the coffee once it is brewed, and there's going to be like a whole fucking thing. I don't have those blinders that... I'm sorry, I'm going to keep saying normal. I hope you're okay with that. And normal people have. Any kind of standard task requires just a little bit more effort for me. So I have an easier time getting frazzled by stuff because I have to focus so much more on just normal stuff than anyone else. If I go into somewhere and I see that it's a mess, I cannot ignore that mess. And I also know that 80% or 70% or whatever of the mess in this house is me. So you go into a room and then you see the mess and you're like, fuck, I have to deal with this mess. And then you know it's your mess. And then you feel bad. And then you don't deal with it. And then it's like this horrible vicious circle because you can't ignore it. Like, I can't unsee anything. I see everything. I'm fucking Sauron. So we were going through all of that stuff. Just the focus stuff was a big thing. Oh, this one is spicy and also very relevant to previous streams. Do you often struggle to follow instructions? Oh no. Okay, so literally it's like at this point you have a table, don't you? No, I don't, IKEA. I don't. But it's okay. We're just gonna have to make it again, aren't we? Oh. If you've been here for a while, some of the mods might even have trauma from this. You know, the trolley stream, the wheelbarrow stream, the baking streams. You think I'm doing stuff for fun? Well, now I feel bad. Don't feel bad, because I think it's fucking hilarious. But like, this is why I keep on saying to people, before we were doing any of the streams, I was like, I am not making this up for the lols. This is I literally can't do this. Now we've had it confirmed and it's something else. We'll get there. And it was a lot about like organization and stuff like that, and a lot about how you misplace items, which I do on a daily basis. And how much do you get, easily distracted by noise and stuff like that? And I do, depending on. So it's a lot of like forgetfulness and distraction, and also the fidgeting and the moving around. I had to essentially describe how it feels to be asked to sit and just not do anything. Because that to me is like torture. I have to be doing stuff constantly. But yeah, so it's like being restless and constantly being on the go and not being able to switch off. Obviously, my husband also had to fill in a form and send it to them. And in one of the questions in the form, it's something along the lines of, does your partner appear restless or something like that? And literally his answer was just like, Jen does not relax. Ever. Like, she doesn't stop. and I think one of his other like answers was like, it's very lucky that I don't really talk, because she does all of the talking and shit like that. So yeah, so it's a lot of like how you're constantly on the go, and also the difficulty regulating like your voice. That was another question for my partner, and this is where it's very important that you have other people who have been filling in these forms, because they were like, how's her voice though? And he's like, well, if she's been asked to whisper, she can whisper. But if she's not doing that, she can't lower her voice. She will just go loud as fuck. Like, Jen is loud. And she will just burst into, like, loudness. And that will just happen. There's stuff like that. So there's lots of those questions. Question 15. How often do you talk too much so others do not have the opportunity to speak? Do you think I'm meant to be on Twitch, chat? You can't talk back at me because I can't hear you. Like, how often do you blurt out an answer before the question has been completed? Oh God, it's just loads of this stuff, yeah? Now, when they've been asking my parents that, this is where it's also quite... I wasn't sure what she was going to be saying about my parents' answers, because I had to translate all of the forms into Swedish, and then my parents printed out the form at home and like physically like circled in stuff, and then I had to translate it all back to English. Now luckily they almost wrote nothing, so there wasn't much to translate back. But yeah, so when I was looking through my parents' answers, all of the stuff is like about my childhood. And when you think about childhood stuff, first of all, I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 85. ADHD wasn't really like a thing, especially up in northern Sweden. Like, mental health wasn't really a thing that you spoke about, or did it even exist? Who knows? But like ADHD was just like, that's something that the little boys have when they run around and they're noisy as fuck and they're just annoying and they smash shit. Girls don't have that. They're just good. And I was one of the good girls, and I've always been like teacher's pet and all that shit, yeah? So because I didn't show any signs at school, people thought I was fine, except the fact that I couldn't do maths for some reason. And I was told off in maths class because I was just drawing in my workbooks. In fact, I was drawing all the time. So my parents were like, well, she's totally normal. She will sit down and she will just draw for hours, lots of little details. She was such an easy child because you could just leave her in a room and she would entertain herself. She's totally normal. She doesn't need like anything from you. You can just essentially leave her with pen and paper or with some toys, and she will have a great time by herself. I was super easy as a kid, and I think that people just didn't notice anything, but it's also because I was not showing anything of the brain stuff. Generalizing here, okay? But the psychiatrist was like, for a lot of girls, their ADHD tends to be internal, whereas a lot of the young boys will be like out running around hyper, yeah? A lot of girls have all of that hyperness, all of that like restlessness and noise in their head, and they might appear completely calm on the outside, but inside it's a fucking hazard. I actually remember that I was taken to the school doctor at some point when I was a kid with my mum, because I had like an orolig mage, a nervous tummy, and the doctor just like listened to my tummy and he was just like, oh my god, it's like a ant circus in there or something like that. And I was like, I'm fine. So he's like constantly like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm very good. I want people to think that I'm good. Because, you know, I don't want to disappoint people. I'm very good at things. I'm good. People tell me I'm talented and I'm so good at drawing. So, like, that's really good. Just don't ask me to do any maths or anything because I will actually have a panic attack. Don't worry about it. I'm good, though. Yeah. Gifted kids struggling when adults not relating at all? Yeah. Well, I was considered talented. I don't know if I would... Yeah, I guess they would consider me gifted in creativity when I was a child. So from a very, very early age, even like writing and stuff like that, I was really good at writing. I was really good at just creating stories and stuff and drawing and all of that creative shit. People were just like, oh, she's very good at that. It's just any of the other stuff, I almost failed. As in like maths, I almost failed. I love it when I got the questions like, do you constantly misplace things? Yup. And I was like, no, everything has a specific place where it must be. And the follow-up question was, do you place things at specific places so that you don't lose them? Yup. Yeah, I've learned to have zones. So I'm still not using them properly, but I'm trying. Where literally in the kitchen, I have the coffee zone, which has like its own tray, so I know where all the coffee stuff is. And we have like the bread zone, and you know, the rice cooker zone and stuff like that, so that I'm teaching myself to put things in the zones, because otherwise they just vanish. They just get eaten by the house. you're gifted with ADHD. So yeah, so the other thing as well was that while you were talking about this, the psychiatrist was like, yeah, people do tend to sort of say that it is a bit like a superpower, and she was sort of laughing about it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't feel like a superpower though. It's not because I can't switch it on and off. If I could switch it on and off, I mean, watch out, because I'd be fucking unstoppable, but I can't switch it on and off. So she was like, yeah, a lot of people do get that kind of thing where they say that the ADHD people are kind of amazing. When they see them when they are hyper focusing on something, like it's almost unnatural to see someone be so like in it. But like whenever they're not in that, it's like a fucking shambles. Everything is just chaos, and it sucks. So anyway, we were going through all of that, yeah? And she was asking very interesting questions. I'm going to bring out my book at this point. So she's going through all the stuff that my parents said, that my husband said. We were also talking a lot about how I feel, because she was like, what you seem to have done is, well, first of all, what you are doing with a bullet journal is what we would be advising people to do anyway. So you're already doing one of the things that we advise ADHD people to do. So the fact that is working for you is really good. But the other thing that I've noticed that you're doing is that you are trying to find systems to function in so much that like it makes you feel bad when the systems fail you. Every time someone says it's a superpower, I want to punch them in the teeth. Yeah, I'm just like, just you wait until you see me having a bad day and I just knock shit over and like walk into the wall and shit like that. It's such a superpower. It's amazing. But yeah, so what she noticed with me was the fact that I am so, I don't want to say obsessed, but kind of obsessed with trying to function, that I am making myself like feel bad about it, because I've literally got a neurodivergent thing. I can't function in the way that it is expected of me, in the way that things are laid out in a neurotypical world. I then feel like I'm a failure constantly, because like things that should be easy are not easy for me, and things that other people kind of find difficult, I find really easy. It's weird. But so she was basically like, yeah, it does look like you are trying things, but you seem to be trying too much. What you probably need to do, she said this in a better way, but basically pull back a little bit on trying to fix yourself. You know, allow yourself to basically realize that you're not a failure in a way. Again, she said this better than how I'm paraphrasing so much right now. It's okay to reach out for help with these things, because what you are trying to do is fix everything about yourself. It's good that the fact that she kind of popped in as well, I was like, it's good that you got an accountant, because what you need is like, you need people to help you with certain things, or what we would suggest, for example, I'm jumping ahead a little bit now, what we would suggest, for example, is actual professional coaching, so that you have someone who is an actual psychiatrist who will be able to go through things with you, so that you can build a system that really works for your brain. Because all I've been doing, because obviously I haven't been able to get any help, is that I've been doing all of the things that I see on the internet for years. So I'm trying all of these things that I see on, like, in articles on YouTube, like in books, whatever. Like, I do all of these things that seem to work for some ADHDers. So I'm trying all of them and hoping that by God something's gonna work for me, and most of them do not work. Yeah, so basically what she's been saying is that keep doing the bullet journal, because that thing is working for you, and it definitely is. It's amazing. But pull back on the other things. We went into rejection sensitivity. Oh my God, this bit is should just tell you like how I work as well. Fucking hell. So during the when we were talking about rejection sensitivity, she's like, so she brought up like, have you heard of rejection sensitivity something something? I was like, oh yeah, but I don't really have any problem with that. And then I went into a long ramble about how I don't really mind rejection because like when I started working, like I had to send out loads of portfolios and stuff to companies. Nobody got back to me, and the ones that did get back to me rejected me. I went into art studios and like, you know, galleries. Nobody wanted anything to do with me, and that was fine. Like I could take that because I'm so used to rejection. And she was like, no, I don't mean work. I mean you as a person. And I was just like, oh, that's different. That was like a whole thing where we then delved into the fact that I have latched on to the drawing as like she again paraphrasing, I have latched on to the drawing as a coping mechanism my entire life, that the workaholicness has come out of that, and that's kept me afloat, and that's what's keeping me going and like functioning. And I'm fine with like rejection through the drawing and stuff. That's cool. Like, because it's not about that. Like, the drawing is like keeping me fucking here. But it's different from me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am not work. I am a person. And like that, when I was just sitting there going, oh fuck, I don't know, because I don't know how not to do stuff constantly. That's the point where I was like, yeah, if someone were to like reject me as a person, that sucks. Whenever I notice that like I make someone uncomfortable, that's a type of rejection, and I feel fucking awful, because the last thing I want is for me and my presence to make people feel bad or scared or sad or annoyed. Like, I don't want to put anything bad onto other people. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm outside, and this has happened, I've been outside with friends in a cafe, and we've had a stranger come up to our table, and she told me, the stranger, can you please keep it down, just to me? You're so loud. And like, other people are also in this cafe. And I was just like, and like that happened like 6-7 years ago, and that will never leave me. Literally, I was so devastated. I didn't show it at the time. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then we continued talking like slightly lower. But I was fucking devastated. Like, and that will never go away. That sticks in the brain forever in my head. Like it's there. And just other things like that as well, where a school friend in Sweden, who I just met up with several years ago as well. At this point, I was living in the UK. I came back to Sweden to see my parents, and one of my school friends was like, hey, do you want to meet up for a coffee? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Hadn't seen them in like, I don't know, 15 years. Met my school friend, and then after the coffee, we went and we walked through the town, and my school friend just looked at me, and they were like, Jen, can you please just like, can you just like not speak so loudly, and like, can you just be a little bit calmer? Like, people are looking. And I'm just like, they're going, it's like the moment I stop regulating myself and I get, you know, the real me comes out, it's too much for people, for most people. And I constantly have to be like, okay, pull that back in. We had to go to a funeral like a couple of weeks ago. My husband said in a nice way, chat. My husband was just like, when we're there, you know, can you try to, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I will. So, because the thing is, a funeral is a very emotional setting and I don't deal well with it. So I was the one in there crying. Like, I was like, whereas other people were also sniffling, but I was there going, and I held it back and I was good, but I was crying the whole time. Yeah, so that's completely different. And I hadn't thought of it that way, because I always thought that rejection sensitivity has to do with work. Because what else is there? Oh my God, that's so fucking sad. But yeah, I do understand as well, like in certain settings, you need, for other people's comfort, you need to tone it down. That's just how it is. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. I'm just saying, like, if you're going into certain places or certain settings, then you have to just keep in mind, like, read the room. We always say in the chat, like, read the room. So like if I'm going into a place, I can read the room a lot of the time, but sometimes I can't. And you have to kind of make sure that you at least attempt it, you know? But yeah, there was also like lots of questions about like depression and stuff. And luckily, like, that's not something I have. Also, the whole thing about the autism, I don't have autism. I just don't tick any of those criterias. But, chat. Would you like to know what your streamer has officially? I'm gonna be getting a little like diploma. They're making my little proper like paperwork about it. So that should probably arrive in about 1 or 2 weeks, which gives me an official diagnosis that I assume I can then use for stuff. I can also apparently use the government's access to work if I need to, if I need something special. But, you know, we'll see. We'll deal with that later. Oh yeah, before I tell you this, sorry. So, do you remember all the questions about like, oh, do you keep losing stuff? Oh, let me get this so I can get you the proper. So the questions like, do you keep losing things? Like physically just shit just vanishes? Yes, I do. How do you do with being physically clumsy? Like you probably saw me just a few seconds ago, I just knocked the mug. It's like I can't judge distance for things. And like, yeah, that's a thing that's been going on for ages. Do you have difficulty following instructions? Like, for example, DIY instructions, chat? Do you have problems with recipes that involve measuring things, chat? Do you have problem with your finances? For example, when you have to count things. So if you are at your convention table, you always have to have your husband with you who can handle the cash and the money side of it because you literally fucking can't. Do you have problems with names? As in, can you not remember names? Do you mix names up? Do you swap words? So you say one thing but you mean another thing constantly, yeah? Do you get anxiety at the thought of having to do maths on the spot? Like, do you get scared of the fact that like someone might ask you to just like start doing some calculations in your head and people are watching you? How do you deal with timetables? Can you read timetables? Do you understand timetables? If someone told you their phone number, can you just write it down? If you have the numbers 1 to 9, yeah? Can you close your eyes and can you list them in your head? Can you swap it so that you start from 9 and you go down to 1? Can you have them all on a line in your head? I can't. Do you have no sense of direction, chat? So like, do you just get lost very easily? Even if it's like, maybe you were in your hometown and you've lived in your hometown obviously your whole life, but still you somehow just fucking get lost all the time. Like if you go into a corridor or something, you have no idea where you fucking are. I mean, I can go on. What if you have like your PIN number and stuff, and you know all of your login information has to be in several different places physically written down because you can't remember it? Do you have that? All of the shit I've described to you are just some of the symptoms of, I don't know how to properly say it, dyscalculia? Am I saying that right? Dyscalculia is where you can't see numbers properly. You can't deal with numbers. And it's not just numbers, because what it does is it actually deals with distances and measurements and like other shit. So the whole thing of losing stuff, swapping names, forgetting places, all of this stuff that's made me think that like, am I just going fucking mad? Because I've never been able to do that. Having no sense of direction. So if you put me somewhere and you say, this is like a continuous thing with me and my husband. It's like, he knows that I don't know where I'm going all of the time. So I will just start walking in a direction and it's completely wrong direction and we have to turn around. So basically the psychiatrist was like, have you heard of dyscalculia? And I was like, I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it other than the fact that apparently it means you can't count. And she was like, it's not just that. It sounds like that is something that you might have along with ADHD. From everything that you've told me, you have ADHD, and you have combined ADHD, which is the most common one, especially for women. I think it's like 70% of women who are diagnosed with ADHD have combined. So that means that you combine the inattentive, the not the hyperfocus, the inattentive and the hyperactivity and the spontaneity or whatever it was. What's the third one? Impulsive. Yeah, impulsive. Yeah. So you have a combination of those. Now, that is the most common one. It's also the most interesting one to treat because you don't just deal with one, you have three, and everyone has different levels in their head. So what might work in terms of treatment for one person with the same combined ADHD might not work for another person because they have different levels of the combination in them. Does that make sense? That is literally what I've got. Holy shit, I feel seen. Yeah. So I have the combined ADHD with dyscalculia. Obviously, she wasn't there to officially diagnose me with dyscalculia, but she basically said that, yeah, it sounds like you've got it. And do you know what the most common what the most common thing that goes hand in hand with ADHD is? Dyscalculia. Yeah. Because people with dyscalculia also tend to be incredibly artistic, creative people because the way their brain thinks is not the way typical people think. It is because that side of me is underdeveloped, essentially, and my other side is much more developed as a result, I think. And the bad thing about dyscalculia, because I've been reading up more about this yesterday, is that if it's not spotted, don't quote me on this because this is something I read, it's not something the psychiatrist said, but if it's not spotted when you are young and your brain is still developing and it's dealt with then, you can treat it when you are young because you can work that brain that side of the brain and get it to the same level as the other side, but you need actual like special help in the school to deal with that. You need coaching. When your brain has already finished developing, hello, I'm pushing 40 years old, good luck, have fun. So it's like now you have to live with it. Again, something I just read, don't take my word as fact on this. That's actually another thing that I just remember that they talked about. Do you listen to things or do things on repeat? Are you someone who really enjoys like re-watching shows that you've already watched several times before? Are you someone who enjoys just watching Planes Land over and over and over and over again? Does that make you feel good? Are you someone who walks through a store, you hear a tune, and then that tune is in your head? Ooh. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, again, another thing I just remembered. She talked about that, I think it was Kiraskuro who said in chat earlier, when your parents fill in these forms, they don't really want to acknowledge that their child might be struggling with certain things because that puts kind of blame on them in a way. And the way the psychiatrist basically worded it was like, what we see a lot of the time is that when you have parents who fill in these forms, it makes them reassess how they did parenting, and like they obviously don't want to see fault in their children, but also a lot of times they'll look back and sometimes they might spot themselves in the forms, and that can be an experience. Paraphrasing, because I was basically saying like my parents literally put in the form where it asks about mental health, they said normal tjej, normal girl. And my dad had also said hon kan hålla masken, which I thought was so fucking funny. It's a Swedish saying which directly translates to she can hold her mask. And it doesn't mean anything more, but if you know about like neurodivergent terms, you know about masking, yeah? And the fact that my dad was like, yeah, she's a normal girl. She can hold her mask in public settings. And I was like, I sure can, Dad. I sure can. No one is better at masking than someone with ADHD. Oh, fuck yeah. I've had a lifetime of, oh, this is going to be interesting, of trying it. Yeah. Let's go. So it was 3 hours of psychic damage. I came out of it with one diagnosis that we all, let's be honest, everyone in the Discord and like people in the chat and like people who know me in real life, nobody is surprised except my parents. Nobody is surprised that I have ADHD. It's nice to know which one, because there's not just ADHD. There are different types and there are different levels. I don't know which level I have yet. So you can have, I think it's mild, moderate, and severe. But I have the combined. So it's nice to like know that like that's what it is. And actually having someone who is a professional sit down and go through everything with you personally is so fucking helpful. Because again, I do love all of these guides on the internet. I think they are really helpful. But the problem with someone like me is that I will try all the things and then most of them will not work. And I will have spent a lot of time, effort, and just energy on this thing that then fails, and then I feel incompetent. My problem is not that I procrastinate things, it's that I try all of the things all at once, and then mainly all of them fail, and then I feel like shit. So I definitely am someone who needs the coaching. I need someone who is a professional, who is trained, who looks at my brain and tells me, how do I work with this? You can have different levels of ADHD. Yes. I was diagnosed like 5 years ago and they just told me that I got ADD and autism. So it depends on, obviously it all depends on like where you are as well. I'm in the UK and I got a private diagnosis. So all of this is just how, like my experience. So I don't know how it is in other countries or in other medical settings. But yes, you can have different levels and you can have different types. So I have the combined, which is, you know, the spiciest one to try to treat, because you have to then treat several types at the same time, which can require different treatments. Should we talk about that for a second? Combined as in hyperactivity and attention? Yeah, so combined means that you have both the inattentive ADHD, hyperactive ADHD, and impulsive ADHD. So you got all of it. I am just a fucking powder keg. This is one of the reasons why I was so happy to be able to go to a professional, because I didn't realize there were different types of ADHD, and I also didn't know that there were different levels of ADHD. I didn't know any of that. I only knew that you could have it or you could not. I didn't know that you could have a bit of it and you could have a bit of a certain type of it. And we haven't even gotten to the treatment yet, okay? So I am an ADHD salad. So the problem is that when you have combined, you might not respond to treatment the same way as other people. So, yes, there's a spectrum, absolutely. So again, I shall consult my book. So, for example, this was me just scribbling this down while she was talking, so I didn't get all of it down. But when you have ADHD, yeah, we all know that the whole thing about it's all the dopamine, you want the dopamine, and your receptors in the brain are just like, oh my God, give me the fucking dopamine, yeah? That's one of the main things about ADHD. And the way you treat that can vary. So, because of the way your brain fires and does all of this stuff and all of your nerves being a bit different, it also means that your, and this is a direct quote, your interoception is more sensitive. So what that means, chat, is that literally for an ADHD person, your nerves are more sensitive. Depending on how it displays itself to you, you can be more sensitive to sounds, to touch, to emotions. You can be more sensitive to like tastes. You can be more sensitive to pain and all these things. And your hormones. And this gave me a fucking massive aha moment. Your hormones can be completely different. So, if you are someone like me who has been struggling with their periods since they first got them, that is because of ADHD. So, ADHD can really mess with your periods. They can give you severe period pains. They can give you severe PMS. And later in life, they can give you really interesting menopausal symptoms. So a lot of people with ADHD have to take special medication during the menopause because their menopause symptoms are so fucking mental. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense because, I've got the Mirena coil, and that is because my periods were so bad that I couldn't function for a week. They were so painful, and my hormones were so all over the place that I would just be like this. And it was horrible, so you couldn't focus on anything because you'd be like, wee! Oh no, sad, wee! Sad. It was just horrible. But finding that out was satisfying. It really slotted in lots of stuff from my childhood where I was like, oh, that's why I was so fucked up. That's literally a symptom of ADHD because of the whole nerves. In a way, it's not your fault, because sometimes that's what I felt like. Is this my fault? Am I doing something wrong? No, it's just that the way your brain has been, laid out has made you sensitive to certain things, and that's just like, it's fine, it's cool. If it's period stuff, it hurts. But yeah, so treatment for this is combined ADHD. You can go the meds route, where I'm gonna say this wrong. You can go for methylphenidate. You can go for the meth. Methylphenidate. I'm just gonna call it meth, okay? You can go for the meth, or you can go for Elvans. This is UK based. Elvans is apparently essentially speed. So you can go for meth or for speed. Again, this is something that I was scribbling this down while she was talking, so I might have gotten this wrong. So again, do not trust me on this. But the meth apparently is the weaker one, because what it does is that it holds on to the dopamine or something in your brain. So instead of it just like sifting away, the dopamine that you've already got, it can be held on there longer. That's why a lot of ADHD people are addicted to some type of drug. Yeah, so during the whole assessment, there was a whole section as well about drugs and risk-taking behavior and like previous convictions and stuff like that. There was a whole section about that too. So yeah, anyway, so the meth stuff apparently, if I remember correctly, holds on to the dopamine in your brain or something so that it lasts a bit longer, which is nice. The Elvans produces more dopamine. It's stronger and it's more effective for most people. But also because it is stronger, some people can't cope with it. Like it's too much. Oh yeah. So basically she was also saying that currently in the UK, there is a med shortage. They currently haven't got any Elvans, but they're hoping to get some in January. She gets emails and text messages like every day about what the med situation is. So she was literally on her phone just going, I'll check right now and I'll see. So she was like, yeah, right now we got the meth, but we haven't got the Elvans right now. That's something that they're currently dealing with in the background, yeah? So yeah, so that's one thing. And she was also saying that please do not think that, like, first of all, meds are 90% effective. But please do not think that they are like a miracle magic pill so that you take a pill and then suddenly everything is perfect. That's not how it works. There is a long period where you need to see if you can even tolerate them. There are side effects, and some of them might be okay to start and then they are not okay, and some of them might help a little bit but then not much more. So that you have to, like, paraphrasing, you have to like manage your expectations here. So don't think that you take a pill and suddenly you're like, boo, neurotypical. That's not how it works. So it's more like, if your system can handle it because you are giving yourself drugs. She was like, I've seen people be transformed overnight. So I've seen people start taking meds and it's like, you know, again, paraphrasing, the veil is lifted and they can just like function and they feel incredible. But I've also seen people who cannot cope with medication at all. Like they can't, because they can give you some side effects like anxiety and depression and lots of other things. They can make, you have to make sure that you don't have a heart condition because they can raise your heart rate because you're giving yourself speed, my friends. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. So really the best way, especially for a combined ADHD person, is to go for coaching with a professional and then meds, so that you have both of these like in your toolbox. With meds as well, you don't have to, like, once it has stabilized, and this can take, what did you say, 3 months. The normal titration period is 3 months. Once everything has stabilized, then you can, like, you don't have to take it every day if you don't want to. You can take your ADHD meds when you know that you need to. So for example, if you're about to do something with work that requires your focus, you can take some meds. But like, it's not something you have to take every day, and you can just stop taking them, apparently. So like, when you stop taking them, there won't be any problems, I think she said. But when you then restart, you have to then start on a lower dose again and work yourself up again. So it's not like if you stop, then you'll get like, what's it called? Cravings or whatever. So basically with meds, it's like most of the time, if you can handle them, they'll give you an instant help. But also they'll only last for so long and then they're gone. So what you really need is the coaching so that can help you actually like build your brain. Out of interest, did they mention anything about medical marijuana? My friend got some because of pain as well, but has also found some benefits from certain strains in terms of ADHD. The only time she mentioned drugs was to ask me essentially if I took some. And no. There was never any mention about smoking weed for that, no. It was basically like to check if I had addictions, because one of the problems with ADHD is that you are looking for things that will give you that dopamine release as quickly as possible, and that can lead to some really addictive behavior, which is one of the reasons why you will never see me gamble, because if I start gambling, I am scared that would ruin me. But yeah, no, there was no talk about weed. They're basically like talking about methylphenidate and Elvans. Those are the two meds that she mentioned. But she was like, there are more, but those are the two that you can start on. So she said that she prefers Elvans, but because there's a shortage, she would normally start people on methylphenidate. And then, see what happens. Yeah, so she told me that what you should probably do is double check some of your, like, any kind of heart conditions in your family, because it's the main thing that you check is your pulse and your heart rate, and that's kind of stuff before you start even taking any medication for ADHD. So yeah. Now, how much do you think that costs, chat? How much do you think it costs for me to start titration? So that means for me to go and have 3 months of appointments and medication. How much do you think that cost me? To give you an idea, the assessment I went to yesterday cost me over £1,000. Trooper Bari has excellent memory. Yes and no. So what Trooper Bari says, wasn't it 1,100 for the diagnostic and 600 for the titration? Yes. So 600 for appointments and the titration, plus extra costs for private medication every month. So the private medication can go between 120 and 150 pounds. So add that, because I can't, add that on. So 600 plus 150, 150 and 150. What's that? And that is if everything goes smoothly and I don't have to then switch meds, in which case they have to charge extra for me to switch to another med that I can tolerate. There is an extra charge for that prescription. Is nothing of this covered by insurance? No. ADHD is not covered by insurance. So basically what she was saying was that it's the 600 plus the 150 times 3. And then if that's done and everything is fine, I can then go over to shared care, UK system, okay? Shared care on the NHS, and in which case for long-term stuff, I can then pay NHS prices for medication, which I don't know what that is. If there's anyone in the chat who gets NHS ADHD meds and you want to share how much that costs, I'd love to know. But I think it's like, what, a tenner? No, it's more than that, isn't it? I have no idea. But like NHS meds they're capped. So yeah, so if, like Gosler says, you can pay only and only if the NHS recognize your diagnosis. Yes, so if for example you are someone who wants to go and get diagnosed for ADHD and you're going to go in the private route like I did, before you even go the private route, you have to go to your GP and double check with them that they recognize the private hospital you are going to and that they will take over shared care. You need to get that like on the record with them, because what if you don't do that and then you go the private route and then suddenly, whoopsie, you've paid, I don't know, £2,000 now, and then you're stuck there forever because no NHS will take you on. £9.90. Okay, so it is a tenner. Imagine a tenner versus £150. Oh, Nina, are you in the UK? Because if you're in the UK and you think that I can get a grant, fuck yeah, I'm in. The only one that the psychiatrist talked about was access to work, which is a government-funded thing where you can literally get things that will make it easier for you to stay in your job. It won't help you get a job. It's about being in your job. So, for example, if you are ADHD, you can get help with certain software, a standing desk, headphones, stuff like that. Anything that makes it easier for you to exist in the workplace. You should be able to claim grants from Access to Work for coaching stuff. Should I? Would I be able to do that, go privately then? Do they actually do that? Because if they let me do that, then I'm in. My meds cost $9.90 per month in the UK and would be $9,000 in the US. Did I read that right? What the fuck? That's mental. Coaching is available through Access to Work. I have it. So I could literally go to Access to Work and request coaching with this private hospital that I've been to. Because that would be incredible. So they don't do titration though, right? It's not for medication. Yeah, okay. So it would at least be the coaching. Oh, well I might do that then. But yeah, all in all, the whole experience has been incredible. I'm still kind of dealing with it because you know what, the whole thing I said about rejection sensitivity, and I was like, oh, it's fine, I get rejected for work all the time, and her being like, I don't mean work. That was the moment when I was like, oh fuck, because like I think it's been my way of coping with my life for my entire life, was to literally turn what we now know as my hyperfocus into my job. And that's the way I have been able to function. Think like pulling that back and being like, what's underneath? And it's like this fucking monster just going, bleh. What am I when I'm not doing the creative things? Like as a person, I know kind of, yeah, there was two things. Oh my God. She was like, okay, I've got one question that's really difficult that people have a real hard time like answering. What are your core values as a human being, like as a person? And I was just like, I'm not going to tell you what I told her because it's private. She really liked she did seem to like what I said. And I, now thinking back, really liked what I said. But that was a moment where I was just like, oh yeah. So that was really nice. And another thing as well, which I might have to like turn into a fucking badge or something for myself, was like me going, oh yeah, I'm gonna work to relax. Like I'm working on relaxing. And I just said that and I just went, wait, what? And she just looked at me and she laughed. And I just laughed as well, because it's just like, who has to work on relaxing? I do, because I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to switch off. Yeah, relaxing is very hard. It's incredibly hard, especially I think because I've chosen to kind of put myself into this hole of self-employment, where it's like you work from home, you are your own boss. Good luck. Anyway, I'm gonna have to go back to work. But do you have any questions, chat? Obviously, sitting down and thinking about this for a little bit and like figuring things out. But also, I don't want to. I've noticed that the fact that I've been spending a whole day with someone who has been picking apart my brain, and I've had to focus on all of my challenges for a whole day, has made me more clumsy today. It's made me, because I'm focusing on it so much, it's made me more ADHD. Does that make sense? So it's like when you're surrounded by it and you're just talking about all of your difficulties and all of like the shit that's wrong with you, quote unquote, you know, because that's on my mind. I think it's just really messing with me at the moment. So what I just want to get on with things. And I said to the psychiatrist as well at the end, I was just like, I just want to be able to get on with things as I see normal people do. And I don't want to have to make all of these systems and like frameworks to be able to even like do simple fucking shit. I didn't say fucking shit. And she was like, yeah, that is a very ADHD thing to say. Thank you for sharing all this. I'm very good at oversharing. The doctor was like, don't you worry, I've got a lot of information from you. And I was like, I bet you do. But yeah, the fact that she was also saying stuff like, if you need to get up and walk around, please do. Don't worry about it. And the fact that I also had to get up and I had to leave the room twice to basically go to the toilet. So I had to like go out and move around. And I'm trying to like, again, to try to explain this for anyone who might be neurotypical or not have this flavor of spice. If I sit down for long periods of time, or if I'm stuck somewhere, so if I'm stuck on a bus, stuck on a train, stuck somewhere, it almost feels like inside my skin there are bees that just slowly start to like wake up and then start rattling around. And then it's like tingles that go all the way out. The tingles start and they sort of rise up. It's like constant fucking bees, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until the point where I'm just like, I have to get up, I have to leave, because like it's just unbearable. It feels like you are getting glued to a spot, but also that spot is like just intolerable. And I've had that for so long that we thought it was just anxiety, that I can't be in like spaces where I feel shut in. So we thought that it might just be claustrophobia. That's the reason I have to leave the spaces. But no, it's because I've got the ADHDs. So my body has to move. So I have to fidget. I have to like shift around a lot, because otherwise it's like the bees come back. Are you going to have a party with husband about the assessment? That was yesterday. We had a takeaway. Yeah, you have a hard time masking again. I think it's pretty common. It's like a Pandora's box. Yeah, just the fact that I have been so focused on all of my spices means that right now they're very much out. I mean, I'm able to like hold it back a little bit right now while I'm on camera, but like I have been just moving around constantly all day, and just like I knocked over glasses in the kitchen. I've just been having a time. Oh, we're talking about late diagnosis ADHD. I also ran into exactly this myself in the last 6 months. It's quite interesting how things just slot together from your childhood and things like that. And yeah, I also got the bonus of having an extra suspected diagnosis of dyscalculia, which is great. I love it. I love that for me. But it's also nice to see that like we went through, you know, autism and depression and stuff like that, and I don't have those. So it's nice to basically have it confirmed that the shit I've got is ADHD and dyscalculia, and I do not have autism, depression, and all that stuff. Hi. I know that we have all had a lot of fun with the whole stuff about me not being able to follow DIY instructions, and the fact that I can't follow recipes and stuff like that, and it's turned into like a thing on this channel. I don't want you to feel bad about that now, because now you know that there's a reason that I can't do it. I don't want you to now kind of go, oh fuck, I've been laughing at someone who is neurodiverse. Please do not feel bad about that, because I am so happy that that's what it is. That is one of those things where I was just like, what's going on? And actually knowing now that it's something, that's not the ADHD, that's dyscalculia. Knowing that now is great. And it also means that we are going to be doing more of the DIY and more of the recipes. And we are going to have a good time trying to figure this shit out together. It's given a diagnosis of ADHD, autism, and OCD. Yeah. So I think that she didn't actually say this outright, but I got a vibe with the questions she was asking me as well, and the questions I've had to fill in before in the forms, and the questions that my family and my partner have had to fill in, that they were also screening for OCD in me, and I do not have that. It's nice to kind of, when you're getting a professional opinion, that you can then see roughly like where you can see where you are and where you're not. Yeah, the I'm not stupid after all is such a relief. Yeah. It's so nice to be like, oh yeah, it's not me. I mean, it is me, but it's just my brain. It's fine. I'm gonna be leaning into it. I'm leaning into it for the lulz. I am fully prepared to keep laughing. Good. Thank you for listening, and hopefully this has maybe helped you in a way where you've been like, oh, now I kind of understand the process of how at least this person went through as an assessment. And also maybe this has helped you see that maybe, you know, certain things that the streamer does is because of a flavor of her brain. So it's nice to be in the neurodivergent. I'm allowing myself officially into the gang now, okay? I knew I was a member, but I didn't want to be a card-carrying member until I have. That's just how I am. I want a professional, and I want a licensed person to look at my brain and be like, this is you, okay? And now that I've had that, I am officially a member. Yay!